Hi everyone, Happy New Year. This video is going to be about change, and since I am a life coach and my background's in clinical psychology, I reference certain elements of psychology and therapy. Although it's not therapy, there are very many overlaps, and this is about when you start to change and you go back into, I call these things systems. So groups of people like your family, an environment that has its own rules and it shapes people to perform a certain role and to kind of react or respond to events or people that happen within this system or group. And when you start to change, there's an interesting dynamic that happens. When you start to change, a lot of people might not be ready to see that part of you that does change. And it's fascinating because usually when you do start to change or do start becoming a different person or like improve in different ways, most people do not see it like surface-wise, the behavior, the external stuff. But when you start to change, you feel it inside. Your thoughts start changing, your emotions start changing, the way you react to stuff, the way you think about things. These are all internal and they start changing, and you notice it first. You notice it way before other people do. And these other people, when they start seeing you and you start talking about how you've been working on a certain thing, or behaving this certain way or adopting a new practice like exercising, or you decided to heal and not behave in toxic ways, right? These people who see this way of being for you, they might not believe it the first 3, 4, 5, maybe even 10 or 20 times. They are in this resistance to seeing how you are in the present. And that's really tricky. It's I reference Bowen family systems a lot, and for me, I consider it this thing called homeostasis. So within this system that you're in, like a cell body, there's these different roles that people have, or the cell units have, to maintain the life of the cell or the system. So when someone comes back into the family unit or some group that you're in or participate in, you come back and you are not participating in this role anymore, a couple things can happen. Some people might want to sabotage your change and your growth because it doesn't benefit the system as it is right now. It's a lot of work and anxiety for the system itself to adapt to the present and change to keep up with what's going on. And that's probably a lot of things that you've noticed with yourself. You might notice that you have maybe participated in trying to sabotage, but not on purpose, or not believe the change that someone has put in, that they're willing to work on the change. You might be like, no, they're not going to change. They're going to go back. And that's very possible too. A couple of things that do happen when we do attempt to change, and it's just the beginning processes. I reference also the stages of change. So if you're in the beginnings of change, there's a lot of potential for relapse. It doesn't have to be with addiction. It's just adopting a new way of life and a new behavior, a new way of thinking. Anything, any cycle of change is a cycle. And it's not a cycle like that. It can go back and forth between the stages. You have a hard time reaching this maintenance stage because change is super duper hard. But if we meet people from our past, if we meet people that are so they're set on seeing you a certain way and they don't believe that you're changing or you have changed, they will do what they can to see you and like peg you back and like make you want to go back to how you used to be. And that's why when we have family gatherings, we tend to go back into certain roles. I'm not saying it happens to everyone, but it's a very common thing that happens where you are, you've grown up, you're an adult now, you have adopted these new ways of being, you're trying your best to be at peace and you're healing, and then you go back into your family system for the holidays, and then you start behaving in these like kind of like toxic behaviors, or your thinking starts to get more anxiety prone, or you start feeling kind of sad and you're wondering where it comes from. It probably comes from the system that you just went in. And this, I will reference a quote that my professor said in grad school, Dr. Bacon, she told me that, you know, don't ever underestimate the power of the system. The system is powerful, and that's stuck with me for a long time. Think about it in terms of school systems, government policies, like anything that has a system and rules and laws in place. It's very hard to change in context to the environment that you're in. Sometimes we have to move away from these rules. Sometimes we have to move away from this entity before we can fully grow. Because let's say you grow up in an environment or a neighborhood that's not the best neighborhood or environment for you. The same can be said for a home that you grow up in. It might not be the best environment for you. You're not thriving. You had to adopt this past role to survive, and that makes sense. We do it. We do this to survive. It is a human thing to do, to want to survive and to make it out alive, right? But after a while, these past behaviors just don't work anymore. There's this need for you to be more authentic and find the path that is for you. And I said before, I believe in multiple paths. We don't really know what the potential for each other can be until we try, and we do. And we do thought experiments. That could be one path, you know. But then when that acting to kind of take ownership of this one path, sometimes we need to take that leap to get out of our comfort zones, and that's hard. It's very hard to change. It's very hard to maintain the change when other people don't believe it. It hurts, it's frustrating, and it can make you want to go back to who you used to be. I've been there. I feel the pain. I feel the struggle of, you know, you've done all this work. I've been doing work for this, like this in this way for how long? I don't know. A long time, like half my life. Half my life I wanted to better myself. And some people in my past, when I see them, they still don't believe that this present self, this calming me, this one person that's kind of more serious and professional, they don't believe that this is me. It's kind of very annoying for them to believe that this is me. They want to think that I am this reckless person, this silly party animal who doesn't take responsibility pretty well, and that is the type of person they want me to be because it's comfortable and convenient for them to not alter their thoughts, to be in the present. It's a lot of change for a lot of people when one person changes, and that's how powerful the system is. The family system is powerful. Any system that you belong to, even a relationship, is a system. So when one person starts changing from the roles that they were given in the past, the roles that help make this relationship kind of smooth, and even though it could be toxic or dysfunctional, it's comfortable because it's predictable. When you're not predictable anymore, people have to adjust. It's so uncomfortable, it's so hard, it's anxiety provoking, it's tough, and people either can learn to accept it, they might not be ready for that yet, but in the beginning, it's very common for people to do this thing called homeostasis, where they will either try to push you back into that old role, or they will adopt these old roles that you used to do. And so it's something to look out for, and it's very fascinating to see once you start noticing it. So that's my blurb on change, because it's the new year. I want to encourage you to stand true to the goals that you have, even if people are resistant to your change and you are having a hard time. You're kind of like relapsing and bouncing around between the stages of change and going back and forth. You might feel like this is maybe not the right you, maybe that past role was the better you. You have every right to go back. It's up to you. But please give it a fair chance, give it a shot, and see if you're changing for the right reasons. Are you changing for who you want to be, or are you changing because it's easier for other people to respond to you and you don't want to deal with the consequences? That's a very legitimate reason too. Sometimes we don't have the energy to deal with everybody else's stuff that comes out when you start changing, and it's a heavy thing to take on by yourself. So if you are having a hard time If it's a lot of stuff from the past that you're working on changing, I recommend seeking a therapist. And if you need one, message me. I might help find a right fit therapist or help you research in the beginning. And if you're looking for a coach or some research information on some like lighter, small-term, short-term goals, give me a message too. I might, be able to give you a consult and then, send you on your way, things like that. So that's my video on change, and I hope you guys are, setting those goals, thinking about the potentials for who you would like to be, what you like to maintain, what you like about yourself, and I wish you the best for this year. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.